Everyone, my name is Miles. I'm joined here today by Louise Petre, who is speaking this November at the Product Design Week. And we're very excited to welcome you. Hi, Louise.
Hi, Miles. It's great to be here.
Yeah, no, very much so. Thanks for joining. You are actually our first interviewee from our speakers this year. So thanks for being, the test subject. But looking forward to having a bit of a discussion about your background and really what you're going to be speaking about Product Design Week. And then we can have a bit of fun. We want to ask some other questions about industry insights and a bit more about you personally. But I wanted to dive straight in, Louise, by asking you to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your current role, and how did you get started in UX and product design?
Okay, so I'm Louise Petre. I'm currently the head of user research at an organisation called the Central Digital and Data Office, and it is part of the civil service, and it looks after digital and data people across government. And in my role, I work with user researchers inside the organisation to make sure that we're doing user research the way that we should be doing it, and help my colleagues to understand what user research is. And then I also work with colleagues in other departments to plan things for the user research community and work on user research stuff more broadly. So yeah, how I got started. So a very long time ago, I did an animation degree, and at the time there was much more work in website design than there was in animation, and there was animation work in website design as well. It was kind of in the days of things like Flash. So I taught myself HTML and got a job as a website designer. So I used to do design and front-end development, and I did that for a very long time. And I did I also used to make things like Flash games and stuff like that for my
days of Flash games.
Yeah,
they made my IT sessions at school go that little bit faster,
Yeah, I think you're not alone. Yeah, which was great fun. I always really enjoyed doing that kind of thing. And then about 10 years ago now, I decided that I was more interested in the UX side of things and the kind of more research and strategy side of building digital things. So I was really fortunate at the time to be working with a small agency who needed a new UX designer. And I said, oh, I'm really interested in that. So they kind of supported me to build my skills and move into that. And so I got a lot of hands-on experience and read quite a lot of books. Went to a lot of meetups. And then I did because it was a small agency, I did a lot of different UX things. So I did research, strategy, bit of service design, what you would call service design now, bit of content strategy, all sorts of things. And then moved into the civil service when I decided that I needed to actually learn some things from other people in a work environment. So I got a job at GDS. I was very lucky, got a job at GDS.
Amazing. Yeah, and I mean, obviously there's a lot of responsibility which comes with working in a public sector environment where your users are everyone, right? And so I'd love to understand some of the key projects or sort of some of those nuances that you find you're working on day to day that is quite distinctly different from other sorts of projects.
So yeah, I think when you work in the public sector, everyone has to be able to use the things that you create. You can't assume that you kind of make assumptions about your user group when it comes to things like I'm not going to explain this. But you have to do when you're planning your research, for example, you have to make sure you really think about who your likely users might be across a really wide spectrum. And you particularly need to think about things like how older people, for example, might access it, or people who maybe don't have super excellent tech, or people who have different kinds of access needs, and how all of those things intersect as well, and can make life really complicated. And especially when you're working in on things that are in the public sector, often the people who are at the intersection of those kind of things are the people who most need to use the things that you're designing. So it's really important to understand them and what they need, and what barriers they might experience when it comes to accessing your stuff.
Yeah, and so obviously you're building out the sort of research with your team for these sorts of projects, and I imagine what you're going to be speaking about at Product Design Week is really what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So I'd love to ask you kind of to share a little bit more about what you're going to be speaking about in your upcoming speaking engagement, and give everyone a sense of kind of why this topic is so important for the current state of UX and sort of product design now.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about mixed methods research. And so that is taking the kind of qualitative data that we gather as user researchers, so interviews and things like that, and then combining that with quantitative data, so the stuff you might get from Google Analytics, or like large scale surveys, things like that, to kind of develop really sound, convincing and insights. And it's something that I used to do it before I joined the civil service, before I went to GDS. And I mean, largely that was because there was just me, and it's actually a really good way of learning about the size of a problem without having to, when it's just you, if you can access different kinds of data, quant and qual. And then when I started working, I worked on Gov.uk for a while, and I worked with colleagues who had a lot of expertise in quant, and I also worked with quite a lot of developers who had a lot of expertise when it came to data. And so I found, when I worked with them very closely, we got better results. We got we were able to create a more persuasive case when it came to wanting to change things. So, and I mean, it's just really interesting and fun. And and I think being a user researcher, you kind of have a kind of certain level of curiosity or nosiness, depending on how you want to think about it. And you can find data in all sorts of weird and wonderful places. And so understanding how to bring that all together and tell a really good story based on it is something I find really exciting.
Yeah, you mentioned some things there, like convincing and persuading, and I think that's what's really important for having this mixed methods, like validated in other data sets, like that allows you to story tell with data and communicate that to stakeholders. And I think that's got to be invaluable. What I wanted to ask that, who's this talk for? Like, if you were to think of the sort of audience that you'd want to share these insights with, is it just researchers, or do these skills go further?
I think it goes further. I think there's something in it. If you're interested in how you persuade people to make a change, and how you use different kinds of evidence to do that, I think come along, because it's not just about being a practicing user researcher. I mean, I think it's about how we tell stories, like you're saying. Yeah.
And lastly, around your talk, because I don't want to give too much away, we want people to come and listen, but what are some of the key sort of takeaways people will be able to take forward for their own work from your presentation?
I'm going to cover things like how you plan mixed methods. I want to demystify a few of the kind of more complex sounding words that you find when you start dipping into quant research in particular. And I want to just kind of share some just very practical tips and a few tricks that I've picked up along the way. So yeah, that's the plan.
Well, we're very excited to welcome you and looking forward to hearing more about that. If you're listening into this, Louise is going to be speaking at UX Live, helping you evolve your craft, and that's the 14th of November. But we have a week-long conference of amazing talks covering lots of different areas. So we'd love to have you along. But Louise, before I let you go, I want to ask you some more general questions, which I think will be applicable to everyone joining and listening to this and joining the event. But I want to look at, thinking about the future of UX. What excites you most about what that could look like, how our role as researchers, designers in the experience design craft, what impact can we have for the future, and what excites you the most?
I get very excited when I work on projects where I think we have an opportunity to take new and exciting and shiny sounding technologies and work out how we can make them solve some of our really knotty problems. Yeah, and I think being able to bring humans into those kind of discussions as early as possible is really, really important, because it means we're solving the right problems for people. And I just think that's really exciting. These things are like we've got all these kind of powerful tools that we might be able to use, and working out how to use them really effectively, I think is a really exciting part of what we do as user researchers and designers.
Yeah. And how do you stay inspired and keep those sort of creative juices flowing?
Well, I read quite a lot of books, but I think I kind of like to read stuff about things like I'm really fascinated by human behavior, as you can probably imagine. So, and I really like reading things like stuff about neuroscience, or things about recently I read a really great book about how we collaborate and why we collaborate, and the power of working together and things like that. So I think that is one way I keep inspired. And I think talking to colleagues and going along to events where it might not be obvious that it's related to what we do, but you never know what you can learn. So I think, keeping an open mind, being curious. Yeah
100%. I think that's super valuable. And if I don't know if you know the books off the top of your head, maybe afterwards you could just give me a couple of your top books that you've found have been really influential in your craft, and I can tag them in the post that we do around this, so that people can kind of get access to some of those reads, because it's invaluable. Just sort of learning, keep learning, it never stops, right? And so my last question, just for fun, if you weren't in UX or product design or research, what career would you have chosen?
So I think I might have been an architect.
Nice.
I like making things.
I love that. Yeah, I think you actually see a lot of people go from architecture into design as well. I think there's some sort of crossover in the skill sets there, and the way of thinking, and the analytical mindset you need to be an architect. That's really cool, though. You could have Louise's tower in central London. Anyway, I really appreciate you joining me for this. We're very excited to welcome you this November, and keep doing amazing research for our government and for the future of our services. Thank you so much, Louise. We'll speak soon.
Thanks.